Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you to all of you who are joining us after a long 3-day weekend. We're so happy to be here with you all. This is it, folks. This is the season finale of Beyond Access for the 2021-2022 school year. So we're happy that you were able to be here live to watch it. For those of you watching on YouTube, you missed it, but not really. We couldn't shut it out with the series down without a better presenter than my good friend Ann Buckley-Reen. So we're so excited and to have you here with us, and so happy that you're able to come back. Ann is going to talk to us about getting moving, physical activities to promote health and wellness. But before we hand it over to Ann, as a reminder, we are recording today's session. So if you or anyone you know has missed it, any part of it, it'll be uploaded to the YouTube channel, so you'll be able to go back and watch and go through the presentation to see any information you might want to see again. As always, the chat function is disabled, but you have the opportunity to ask your questions using the Q&A function. You'll be able to see it on your screen as a little icon that has the letters Q&A, and you can type those in throughout the presentation and we'll do our best to answer them. But we also have some dedicated time towards the end to answer any questions live over the stream. Now, we're really excited about today's presentation because Ann's going to talk to us about strategies, routines, and opportunities for healthy movement at home and in the community. Also talk to us a little bit about how to build healthy habits for the body and the mind while developing daily movement routines. And a very big important part of this is helping your family balance screen time with movements and outdoor opportunities. So with all that in mind, Ann, thank you for doing this again, and good evening.
Okay, good evening. Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here. So welcome everyone. And tonight we will talk about what's coming, our summer break and having our kids at home and opportunities to find balance in their summer days. So the first thing that we want to talk about is what's our goal? And our goal is that all students and families be in optimal physical, behavioral, and emotional states. And our goal is to support the physical and mental health and well-being of everyone. So, first things first. Tonight we're going to talk about movement and getting moving. What we know about this population, this generation of students, is that there is an increasing amount of evidence that is showing us that students today move far less than students did just 20 years ago. They are spending much more time engaged in screen activities, whether it be on video games or computer or television. And so what we need to do is we need to find that balance again. So first things first, the benefits of regular physical activity is that it helps to promote growth and development, and it has multiple benefits for physical and mental health and social well-being. Kids who move tend to be healthier. Okay, and it builds up our immune system. It also strengthens us emotionally. It helps to improve our mental health by decreasing and preventing conditions like anxiety and depression. Just walking every day for a child who has anxiety has been shown to change levels of anxiety, to significantly reduce anxiety and improve mood and other aspects of well-being. So, beginning at the beginning, what we know, as I just said, is that kids these days spend a lot of time sitting in front of computers, TV, and cell phones. The amount of time that's recommended for school-age children is no more than 2 hours. And The average, which is being calculated recently, is about 7 hours a day. The combination of different types of technology, that is the average that many kids are exposed to screens. So not only is technology totally engrossing for many kids, which makes it very hard for them to get away from it and engage in physical activities and play, outdoor exercise and movement activities. Many times parents express that they're frustrated because they can't get their child off of technology. So the first goal for tonight is to replace excess screen time with movement and play. And this is really key in establishing and maintaining our well-being, physical, social, and emotional. Okay? So to begin, we suggest that as a parent, you share your summer moves goals with your children or with your child, okay? Together, make a plan to try to get at least an hour of movement each day. Now, you can do a half an hour in the morning and a half an hour in the afternoon. You could do 15 minutes 4 times a day. But what you want to do is get in the habit of getting that movement time in. And I've got a list of different activities so you and your child or children can figure out what works best for you. Okay? When you go over the list of activities that I'm going to be sharing with you, see which ones your child would prefer. Offering choices is a great way to get your child engaged. When we tell them you have to do this and there's no compromise, it's far better to have an invitation than an imposition. We want our kids to know what's going to happen if I do this. I'm going to feel better. I'm going to have more fun. I'm going to be more engaged and out in the world. So the first thing is we want to start the conversation now. School, we still have a few more weeks of school, but we want to introduce the idea that we're going to be moving every day. And we can begin that now after school or even before school in the morning. Okay? It's always great to have a daily schedule. Kids, especially our kids who have learning challenges, developmental challenges, but for me, I always use a schedule. Make a daily schedule and prioritize your movement time on the schedule. My daily schedule, as I do the things that are on my schedule, I check them off. I make a star. Our kids can do the same thing. Okay? So make a schedule, add it to your day, and then let's talk about some of the ways that we can add movement to our daily routines. First things first, one of the most simple activities is walking. So you want to set aside time each day for a daily walk. Now, if your child is non-ambulatory, in a wheelchair, getting outside, getting the fresh air is still very, very important. So that outdoor time is something that you want to build in. When you set aside time for a daily walk, you can begin to alternate faster walking with slower walking, okay? You can combine walking and other activities by making your destination the local park. So if your child is at an age where they enjoy going to the playground, walking to the park and then engaging in playground activities is a really, really wonderful way to spend time outside, okay? So walking not only helps us with our physical fitness, but research has shown that walking promotes the release of brain chemicals called endorphins, and those improve our mood. So just taking a walk can help you to have a more positive view of life. And again, walking doesn't have to be done at a fast pace. Even a stroll at a comfortable pace promotes stress reduction and better health. So we live in New York, and New York City, the 5 boroughs, has many, many, many opportunities for walking and hiking. The New York City parks have hiking trails, which provide opportunities for adventure while getting moving. So I'm going to go over some of those specific places where we can do some walking and jogging. But just walking, walking close to your house is also a wonderful daily activity. So sometimes people like to walk on a track, and many high schools and middle schools have tracks, walking tracks or running tracks. So you may have one that's close to your house, and that may be someplace where you would like to do your walking. You can find a track near you and see how many repetitions you and your child can do. And if there's no track nearby, walk around your block. So make that one lap and then see how many laps you can do. A goal would be to increase by one lap, one circle around the block each day. Okay. And then again, you can alternate walking and fast walking or running. For some of our kids who don't really like to move, walking is a great place to start. We don't need to push any further than that. For our kids who have excess energy, running a bit can be really helpful in burning off some of that excess energy and in organizing their energy. So we want to meet them where they're at in terms of supporting their movement activities. Okay. So that's the basics. That's the basic activity is walking. And that's really where we start. There's a lot of ways that we can fit walking into our everyday routines. If you live in a building, you can take the stairs if that's possible. Walking up and down the stairs, a great aerobic activity. And again, builds strength and endurance. Okay. Now, for those of you who have the ability and the equipment, bicycle riding is another great outdoor activity. And bicycle riding is a way of building strength and endurance, and it decreases our levels of stress. It's a really healthy activity. Cycling has some of the same effects as some anti-anxiety medication. So as soon as you get on your bike and begin to ride, endorphins, as we talked about with walking, endorphins are released, and that's your body's natural painkiller. And they're released in your brain. And although they're primarily released to prevent exercise from causing our bodies pain, they also play a crucial role in relaxing our mind and boosting our mood. So what we know is that exercise not only helps us to be physically healthy, but it helps us to be mentally healthy as well. In fact, researchers found with adults that an inactive adult who exercised 3 times a week can reduce their depression by almost 20%. So in New York City, for the past 20 years, New York City has been building a bicycle infrastructure. And there are bike paths in all of our big parks, along the waterfront in Manhattan, all along the waterfront. There's a beautiful bicycle path, so you never have to cross traffic. Along the waterfront in Brooklyn and in parts of Queens by Long Island City, again, a beautiful, long, wonderful walking / bicycle path, okay? Because there's been such an increase in bike riders, there are now areas where it is specifically closed just for bike riding. So I am going to share with you a list of New York City parks and areas for bike riding, for safe bike riding. I live in the Rockaways, and we have a boardwalk. There's also a boardwalk in Brooklyn, and bike riding is allowed on the boardwalk in the bike lanes. This is a nice, safe 7-mile stretch that you can access with your bicycle, and it's a wonderful, wonderful activity that many families enjoy on a regular basis. If you don't live near the Rockaways, you can access the Rockaways with your bicycle by way of the ferry. And the ferry has stops in Brooklyn and Manhattan, from North Queens all the way all the way down to South Brooklyn that can take you into the Rockaways. So an idea of just ways to access your bike. But if you have a bicycle, dust it off and get out and ride. Okay, help your child to get on their bikes and ride. Now, these are structured activities that we're talking about, taking our kids for a walk or for a bike ride. But I want to interject that it's really important for kids to have unstructured outdoor playtime. This is if your child is able to be out and play in the park, with neighbors on the block that have time out, creative aspects of development, coming up with games, engaging with others, developing social skills, taking turns. So all of that is part of our outdoor play. Your child may have a friend that they like, or be open for making friends. And so finding activities that they enjoy is a way of meeting other kids who enjoy similar activities. Now, I know many, many kids who enjoy climbing. And climbing is something that many of our young and elementary school students really enjoy. If you check out the parks and the playgrounds that are around the city, many have climbing equipment. And the newest parks have really amazing climbing equipment. So climbing and hanging really helps to develop body awareness, helps to develop strength, helps to develop balance. And it's a wonderful, wonderful way of getting the body moving. In the old days, kids used to climb trees. And climbing a tree is also a wonderful activity. You may want to supervise that, or the tree that they're climbing. But a challenge of climbing a tree may be something that your child would like to accomplish this summer. Okay, so some other things that we don't have to stray too far from home for, and that is using chalk and creating a sidewalk chalk obstacle course. So you can use a driveway or a sidewalk, and you can draw a line for kids to follow, and you can add obstacles and challenges along the way. So they're getting a visual of where they should move. And there is a woman who writes a blog. The blog is Toots Mom is Tired. You can find that blog online. And she offers suggestions for obstacle courses, such as circles. When you see a circle, you jump on it. When you see a rectangle, that's a hurdle. Okay, so you jump over it. And she's got a lot of great ideas on her post. So obstacle courses are really great for kids. They encourage thinking and problem solving, and they encourage a lot of creativity. Okay. And most of the obstacle course requires a lot of physical movement, which is hard to achieve these days. So be creative. There's lots and lots of ideas on Toots Mom is Tired on that blog. And I'll share some more with you in the handout for obstacle courses. Okay. And again, you can start with just one activity. You don't have to start with multiple activities for the obstacle course. You can just start with one motor activity where you're jumping from box to box, or you're weaving in and out of the sidewalk design that you've created, where the kids have to stand on the line or hop on the line or run on the line and stay on the path. Okay, so you can do a different path every day. And at the end of the day, what I like to use is a water bottle that has a squeeze handle. So you can use an old spray bottle, fill it up with water, and then your child can squirt the chalk outline on the ground and they can erase it. And now you're all ready for tomorrow's obstacle course. After a couple of days, your child is going their own, of creating some really wonderful adventures and obstacle courses with your child. So chalk and the sidewalk is all you need for that. Okay. All right. So something that's really big with adults these days is something called circuit training. And in circuit training, if you go to a gym, you spend up to 30 seconds doing an activity, and then you move on to the next station and you do another activity. Okay. So this is great for kids who have a short attention span, who who may not have such great endurance, or who just need a lot of novelty. Novelty is part of play and part of the beauty of growing up. So circuit training for kids. I have some ideas here for you. Okay, so for young children, you can do things like a hula hoop, playing hopscotch, throwing balls, jumping in the air, playing leapfrog, running back and forth, doing jumping jacks and dashes. So Ace Fitness gives us some ideas for circuit training ideas. And what you can do is you can set up cones, or what I use are empty buckets. I turn those buckets upside down, and those can become our start and finish lines. Okay, you can use empty gallon water containers or milk containers that you've rinsed out, and those can be our start and finish lines. So look around your house, see what you can use, and and these can be tools that you can use for your circuit training. Okay, so the circuit can have 3 stops, it can have 5 stops, it can have 8 stops, depending on the age of your child and their skill level. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to have them do things like, well, one activity which is really fun is they can practice vertical leaps. So they can practice jumping in the air, and they jump with a piece of chalk in their hand. And so they jump and they make a mark on the wall. And that mark shows us how high they can reach. You want to keep track of their results each week to gauge how much higher they're jumping, and see by the end of the summer, wow. Okay. Now, if your child is non-ambulatory and is not able to jump, we can also just do some stretching up in the chair and make a mark on the wall. And let's just see how much extension we can get into our arms, because our kids who don't move freely on their own tend to get a lot of tightness and rigidity in their joints. And so doing daily stretching and following some of these very same ideas for them, their range of motion as well. Okay. So circuit training helps heart rate, helps to build your heart rate up. So you want to do each circuit so that each child is working 30 to 60 seconds on each activity. Okay. And you don't want to take more than a minute break between each leg of the circuit. So you want to start out by seeing if you can do these activities for 15 minutes. So you might go around the circle once and then go around it again. And a great way to keep our kids moving is to play their favorite music. You can play it during the workout to just create more excitement. Okay. For our older students in elementary schools, you can create a circuit that has simple calisthenics, like jumping jacks, sit-ups, push-ups, pull-ups, chin-ups, jumping rope, okay, and timed dashes. So ready, set, go, and you have the child run to the cone or to the milk container down at the end, and then touch it and run back. And you time them and see how fast they can go. Okay, they're a really good circuit exercise, and these work well as well as other activities are like hopscotch, high knee skipping, bringing your knees up in the air as you're skipping, taking giant steps down the length of the driveway or the width of the gym, or line to line back and forth running. And you can make lines on the ground again with chalk. It's a great way to have your beginning and end. So really, the only thing that I would say, the only tool you want to get for this summer that you really need to have is some chalk. Go to the dollar store and get some big fat pieces of chalk that you can use to designate space and place for some of these great activities. Okay? All right. So here are some other pictures of circuit training ideas. And one that we didn't mention was jumping rope. All right. So jumping rope is a great activity. And this is something that is fun to learn. It's a great summer activity to learn to jump rope. So having the child learn the rhythm and using a regulated background rhythm can help the child to be able to pace their jumping to when the rope is coming around. Okay? All right. So this is an activity that can be done inside in the summer, can be done outside as well, and that is yoga. So there are yoga resources. I am an occupational therapist, and I'm also a yoga instructor for children of all abilities. And what we have to share with you are some free yoga resources. So on YouTube, there is a sequence that's called Get Ready at Home. And that's a 20-minute yoga practice for kids of all ages where you just need a rug or a yoga mat to be able to practice. Also, if your child is non-ambulatory, a really great practice that I have done, which is on YouTube, is called the Seated One practice. And this is done by many classes, many students and adults who are who have limited mobility. It provides a lot of opportunities to move every joint and to organize the body and space to feel calm and safe in the body, to get the circulation going, the blood flowing. And if you are not one to move, doing the floor practice is a really great way to get your body moving comfortably. Okay. Now, we have a website. It's called the getreadyproject.com, and it has on it ready breaks. These are free. You can access them on the website. You just go under resources, and it's a series of 6 movement breaks between 8 and 10 to 12 minutes. There is a wake up sequence that's 5 minutes long. There's a calm down sequence. There's a get ready for bed sequence. There's a wake up your energy sequence. And so throughout the day, if you need some guidance or some ideas of activities to do with your child, put on the Get Ready Project and play these sequences. Okay, you can pick one and you will be working up to your hour of movement in no time flat. All right. Once your child gets familiar with these, there are lots of ways that your child can then participate in a yoga practice where they may want to lead it. They can remember their sequences. You put on soothing music. I'll give you some samples of that. And they can guide you in doing some of the movements. So first we learn the movements, and then we can mix them up and we can play with how we how we lay out our practice. Okay. The goal of yoga is to bring the body and the brain and the energy into a state of balance. And so many of our students find that practice a difference for them. Students who are reluctant to participate in other kinds of movement activities find that yoga is a non-threatening, non-competitive movement activity that is something that is very enriching. Okay, so something for you to try. Excuse me. There is a slide I realized that I didn't put in here, and that was the slide I wanted to put in after yoga. And that slide is dancing. So moving to music is a great activity. Putting on rhythmic music helps the muscles to fire and helps to create energy. Sound is energy. So we could have a dance break each day. If your child really loves to dance, you could do a half an hour, make a playlist of favorite music to move to, and start to dance. Okay, it's a great aerobic activity, and it's great. You could do mirror dancing where one person leads and then the other person follows and does the same kind of moves. Again, it's great for circulation, oxygenation, wakes up your brain, gets your muscles firing, and creates really good positive energy in the body. And it's a great stress reducer. Okay. The other thing that dance does is it helps with coordination. The background rhythms help to organize, as I said earlier, the firing of the muscles. So if your child is inclined to dance, then dance, dance, dance. Okay. Great opportunities. Now, back to the outdoors. There are different moves, there's different spaces and places where we can take opportunities for movement. And one of the places that's great in the summertime is the beach. New York City has beaches in actually Governor's Island also has a little beach. So all 5 boroughs have beach area. And in Queens, the Rockaways has a 7-mile stretch of beach with a boardwalk that goes for more than half of it. And then there's also Reese Park and Fort Tilden in the Rockaways, and those are part of the National Park Service. Now, these beaches also have playgrounds that are about every 10 blocks, you'll find a playground. And so those playgrounds are also wonderful activity areas. They're brand new. We had a big storm 10 years ago, and all the playgrounds have been rebuilt in the Rockaways. So there's a wide variety of really exciting movement activities to do. And this is someplace where you may want to come for a day to explore, adventure, and move in a different place. In Brooklyn, you've got Coney Island, and there's a boardwalk in Manhattan, the beach, walking on the beach and on the sand, great activities. And again, Staten Island and Bronx also have their own beautiful beaches. So beach activities can include swimming, walking, digging. Okay, there's a million things you can do with the sand, a bucket and a shovel, and you can be digging, creating sand castles, making drip castles, collecting shells, doing a treasure hunt, setting up an obstacle course or a relay race at the beach on the sand. Okay. Just great, great, great outdoor time. And, you know, what I know from being on the beach with kids is that very rarely do kids ask to come home from the beach. That's a place where it's fun to be outdoors. It's fun to have the proximity of the ocean. And all of the beaches in New York City have lifeguards that are on duty from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. You always want to make sure that your child is, in the water, in the proximity, close to the lifeguard. Okay. Other things that you can do on the beach, you can draw hopscotch in the sand, you can do tic-tac-toe in the sand. You can also count the amount of living animals, from snails and starfish and seagulls. You can go on a nice long walk and count how many living animals do you see at the beach. Okay. When you're engaged in those kinds of activities, children often don't even notice how much they're moving. So some great ideas. A few things that you want to make sure when you go to the beach is that you pack your sunscreen. Now, the National Park Service, we have national parks all over the country, and the National Park Service actually has a national park recreation area right here in New York City. And I'm going to show you a picture of that. So this is the Jamaica Bay Wildlife Center, and this is located in Southern Queens. And it has a walking path, which is an accessible path for wheelchairs as well. And it takes you through different areas that are all along the water, and you can see many animal species. It's a wildlife, um, um, what's the word? I just lost the word for it. It's a place where wildlife are protected. So it's also a beautiful place to find solitude with your child. You know, if you want to go to a place that's quiet, and it's if your child tends to be overwhelmed or overstimulated if there are too many people around, going on some of the hikes at the Jamaica Bay Wildlife Territory, or at Fort Tilden, which is next to Reese Park. There are beautiful trails there, and again, it's quiet. It's a very peaceful place to pack a little picnic and bring your water and go and explore for the day. Okay, so those are just some ideas. New York City Parks, if you go on NewYorkCityParks.com, you can print out, you can download a whole list of locations and activities that New York City Parks host. And they also will tell you about their hiking trails and the length of their trails. So for hiking and biking. Okay. So how do we do this now? We've got some great ideas for being outdoors, for playing in front of our building or in front of our house, or going on an adventure to the park or to the beach. But how do we get this going? So the first thing that you want to do is you want to set an example. We want to discuss healthy goals with your child or your teen. And a time to do that is not when they are sitting in front of the computer. We want to find a time where we can have their attention and we're not taking them away from their preferred activity. Okay. We want to let them know that that we want them to be as strong and as healthy as possible. And so we want to make sure that we meet the goal of 60 minutes of outdoor time every day in the summer. So what I would do is ask the child to make a list of activities that they like to do outside, or some that they would like to try that are not technology related. And I will share with you an extensive list that was made by kids. And you can share that if it's appropriate for your child's age and stage of development. But you can just have them come up with ideas. Okay. Sometimes taking a walk around and looking at what other people are doing gives you ideas for things that you can do outside. First, this summer. And then other tips to reduce screen time as we wean our child down from their dependence on the screen is that we don't want to ever have screens in the bedroom. Sometimes when we have kids that have more challenges, they will be so preoccupied with what is on the computer screen or what is on the video game screen that will keep them occupied and calm. But actually it's a stimulant, and so it will keep them up at night, and it will be very hard for them to break their connection to the screen. So let them know that you're not saying they can't have it, but we're going to schedule the screen time no more than 2 hours a day. Now, if you have a choice, it's best to get out and get moving in the morning and schedule screen time for later in the afternoon. Okay. You want to also keep a chart to track screen time so that we are not going over our 2 hours per day. And if you can limit that to an hour per day, that's even better. And the other recommendation by the experts is that we want to eliminate screen time at least 1 hour before bed. That gives the brain and the body the opportunity to calm down and for the brain to prepare for the calming effects of sleep. So one of the resources that I shared with you on the Get Ready website is a calm down for bed practice. And that's some simple movements where we're tensing our body, stretching our body, releasing tension. It's got soothing music, And it's a great little end of day movement activity. All right. So some tools that I'll share with you are a habit tracker. And if you were with us at our last talk, we talked about different habits for calming. A habit tracker is also a great way to write down those preferred movement activities. And each day you do those activities, you check them off. So at the end of the month, you can see how much movement you have actually accomplished. This is a great refrigerator. Hang it in a place where it will be visually seen. Okay. It creates a visual cue that reminds you to move. It's very motivating to see the progress you're making. And it feels really satisfying to record your success in the moment, right? And give lots and lots of praise for continuing to participate in our movement activities. Now, this is a great tracker, and this is called 100 Hours of Movement. And this comes from a website called 1,000 Hours Outside. And that's the goal for students, for kids and teens to accomplish 1,000 hours of outside activity that they are going to track on different charts. So this chart, this first one, if you look at it at the top, it says 25. There are 25 little circles or lines that you can fill in. Each time you complete an hour outside, you color in one of those areas. So that top block, that represents 25 hours of outdoor activities. That could be almost a month. But say you take a day and you go to the beach, or you're walking on the boardwalk, or you have another one of the adventures that we're going to talk about, you might be out for 4 or 5 hours. And so you get to color in a bigger chunk, which is also very motivating for our kids. Okay. This is great for math as well, because our children are going to be keeping track of how much they're doing, how many hours, counting them up, getting credit for them. So that's one tool. Another tool that students may like to use is the 100 Hours Outside Planet picture. And again, there are 100 lines or areas to color in on this picture. You put down your start date and you pick one planet or outside, one of these stars, and you can begin each hour, you're going to color in the little portion, okay? Excuse me, sorry. So these are just some fun ways to track what you're doing. So for outdoor hikes and adventures this summer, you want to make sure that you pack water and some simple snacks for yourself and your child. I recommend going early to beat the crowds. If you're going to the beach on the weekend and your child is more sensitive to crowds and stimulation, going in the morning is when it's the most peaceful. Okay. There are also some areas that have less traffic, less people. So these are places that you want to explore. Okay. You also want to, if you can, start an adventure or movement journal with your child. And you can each day, keeping track of what you've done creates a nice little story about your summer. I put that information at the bottom, but I will give it to you again because we're not quite finished. Okay, so more outdoor adventures. Governor's Island, which is at the tip of Manhattan, and you can reach it by ferry boat. There's a boat that comes right next to Pier 11 in Manhattan. And Governor's Island, there are no cars on Governor's Island, only bicycles and walking. It's a wonderful place to explore on a weekend and go early. There's plenty of space there that you can really have a lot of tranquility. I spent a day exploring the island with one of my sons, and we had a really wonderful time. Also in New York, there's the Central Park Trail, and that trail winds all around Central Park. So you may want to start to walk parts of the trail, and over the course of the summer, make your way to explore different areas of the park on that trail. Prospect Park in Brooklyn also has a wonderful trail, as does Forest Park in Queens. Okay. And then maybe you know of the High Line in Manhattan, which is it starts on 14th Street and it's raised above the ground. It's one story up, and the High Line goes all along. It weaves its way from lower Manhattan moving up. It's a great place to walk and view and see lots of different sites of Manhattan. So it's an adventure walk. All of these are outdoor adventures. And you might want to plan a couple of outdoor adventures for the summer. You don't have to do an outdoor adventure every day or every week, but having a couple of those as special days in the summer can be really wonderful, wonderful things to look forward to. You'll learn a lot, as will your children. Now, sometimes our kids are really not interested in just walking for the sake of walking. So there's, or hiking. So there's things that we can do. There's a whole project about counting squirrels and finding out about squirrels. Where do squirrels live? What do they do in the wintertime? What kinds of squirrels are we seeing? So you can identify the different animals that you might meet on your adventures, and you can learn more about them. Okay. Now, other opportunities for movement are some of my favorite things, because in these activities, our kids don't even realize that they're moving because they're very, very enthralled with what they're seeing in these in these different places. So the first one is going to the zoo. The Bronx Zoo is a wonderful, wonderful experience, as is the Staten Island Zoo is appropriate for younger kids. I don't know if the Central Park Zoo is still going, but the Bronx Zoo is something that you definitely want to make time to visit if you can. There is free admission at the Bronx Zoo on Wednesdays. So you can go on the Bronx Zoo website and you can make an advanced reservation and you will get in for free, you and your family. Okay, the New York Aquarium in Brooklyn, which is located next to the boardwalk, the train goes right there in Coney Island, has free admission after 3 p.m. on Wednesdays. And again, this is located right on the beach, right next to the boardwalk in Coney Island. And it is a wonderful, wonderful aquarium. So that's another great opportunity to walk and explore and look and really have a lot of time, of movement time, where you're not even conscious of how much movement you're getting, how many steps you're getting in. You can count those on your phone if you like. Another great activity and one for a good rainy day activity is to visit the Museum of Natural History in New York City. And that is a massive museum. I have pictures on the next slide of each of these areas. You can reserve tickets online. And it's open from 10 to 5:30 each day, but it's closed on Mondays. They have the amount that they suggest the donation to enter, but you can pay whatever you can afford to visit the Museum of Natural History. Okay, you can make a donation. So another great place that's on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. A great place to explore. Okay. So here's some picture from the aquarium and the zoo, and here's the Museum of Natural History. So if you're having trouble, whoops, what happened? Having trouble getting started, again, you want to make sure that you are making and using a daily movement schedule. So make a schedule of the activities of the day and make sure that movement is on that schedule, okay? And to get moving, if you have a child that's very, very hard to get them moving, use music or counting. Students on the spectrum, students with autism, especially like moving to music or to rhythmic counting. It's easier to move to a regular rhythm. And this helps to regulate breathing and the firing of the muscles for biking, walking, dancing, aerobics, and even yoga. Okay? Use your habit tracker. kids and adults too really love to watch their successes. So make sure that you give yourself a star or a check each time you complete your movement goal. Okay. Or you color in one of the pictures that I gave you. You can start with baby steps and then you can move to giant steps. And you will be very surprised how quickly our kids build endurance, build capacity, build strength. Okay. And then finally, I am going to give you a resource page. And you're going to go on the Get Ready Project website for the Ready Breaks, and you can find those under resources. And on YouTube, you can find the seated one or a floor yoga practice. All right. And I have plenty of handouts for you with many of the resources and activities that we talked about. So I will be sharing those for you to download and use, and we welcome your feedback. So we have time now for a few questions, if you have any.
All right, folks, if you have questions, now's the time to drop them into the Q&A. And I think one of the most important things that you shared about today, and this is just my opinion, and if I wanted folks to walk away with one thing, I would really recommend the practices that you shared around devices and screens, especially the stopping screens for 1 hour before bed. I think that's a big one that like we all forget to do. And while the suggestion on this presentation was made specifically for kids, but I think we should challenge ourselves to all try and stop that, because I think one of the things that happens is just by living, we are our children's most impactful teacher. So if they're seeing us using screens and screen time an hour before bed, they're going to want to use it before bed. So maybe it's like a household thing that we say, you know, it's time to get ready for bedtime. We build that routine, and we all work towards it, right?
Absolutely. I think too, Jose, and and just following with that there should be times of the day for the family where we don't have technology. So if we're sitting at the table having dinner, that's a no technology time. Having time where we're connecting to each other and not connecting to our screens is really, really important for our overall health and well-being.
Yeah. I have a friend who has this whole dinner time ritual where they have what they call dinner questions. And so like if there are questions that you want to ask throughout the day or whatever, she'll tell her children, write it down, right? Because then you're exercising that literacy, and save it, and then we'll go through it at the dinner table, and then you're having active conversation around those questions. So like, that might be something that you might want to do at home.
I like that. I like that a lot. And if you don't sit down for dinner, summer is a great opportunity to gather together for that time each day. And, I think Jose's suggestion was really, really wonderful. But rather than eat on the go, spend this time interacting with each other and asking those questions that you've been thinking about, sharing. So very good.
So there's a question in the Q&A about where to start when trying to come up with a schedule. And some of our kids might need to have more rigid schedules than others. Do you have any thoughts or ideas of where to start thinking about creating a summer schedule?
One thing that I know from counseling, coaching families for many years about getting movement activities, therapeutic movement activities for their kids. As a therapist, I would recommend a lot of different types of movement activities. And one of the things that I learned was that you always attach a movement activity to something that's already in the schedule. So when we think about our general schedule, we have our meals, we have our sleep time and our wake time. Okay, those are set in our schedule pretty much. And so you can do before lunch, I'm going to do my jumping jacks or my yoga practice. Or when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to do my get moving exercises. Okay. In the afternoon, so you can actually plug those onto the schedule. Or maybe in the morning, mom goes out for a nice long brisk walk, and you can go for a nice long brisk walk with mom. Okay. But you know when it's going to happen, it's part of your day. And it's part of the beginning, the middle, or the end of your day, or all three. But make sure when you make that schedule, you can have free time on your schedule. And
Yeah.
it is important to have free playtime on your schedule, time to be creative, time to be with friends. But you also want to make sure that that is on your schedule and that we're not just filling time with technology. Okay.
Yeah, I think a good place to start here is to like outline the things that have to get done that day. So, and what I mean is like what things that have to be done every day. So every day you have to have breakfast, every day you have to have lunch, every day you have to have dinner, every day you have to take a shower, every day you have to brush your teeth twice a day. Start with those and then fill in the gaps. And I think you don't want to overpack the schedule, right? And I think a good rule of thumb in my mind is for every curated activity, for every controlled activity, you want to give an equal amount of free time,
I agree.
right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And that could be outside free time, inside free time. It could be some screen time and some not screen time. I think the key is what you were saying, Anne, is like all free
Mhm.
time can't be screen time. I think
Yeah.
that's really the key. And I think so. I think there's another question in here about by the time kids get home from summer camp, day camp, or summer school, they're just tired and they want to
Yeah.
rest. And how do we overdo that hurdle? And that's part of not jamming the schedule, right? Like building in some free time, some wind down time, some decompression time when you get home from those things. So like when we get home from a day at the beach, we're not going to say, all right, let's go do our yoga right off, right?
Exactly. We've done our stuff for the day. That's it.
We get home
Exactly.
and we've been stimulated all day. We've seen people, we've interacted. So maybe what we need to do is schedule 20 minutes of quiet time or alone time and like, you know,
Yeah.
take the cues from your kids in the way that it works for your family.
Yeah. And keep it flexible. Use that schedule and see what works and what doesn't work and what keeps coming back on the schedule as far as activities go. And you'll find that it gets really easy to get to plan your movement. Just a little side note, as a mom of one of my sons was really very reluctant to move. He was much more um, self-directed and he wanted to do what he wanted to do. And he and I began to do morning workouts where we would walk or run or ride our bike, and we would just spend 15 minutes in the morning doing our little routine. And I explained that this was to help him get strong, build his muscles, and feel good. And we would try it. And if he didn't like it, we would find something else to do. And, it became such a great connection time for us. It really changed so much of his challenges with life, of his facing things with dread and not wanting to try things, to becoming just much more open to transitions and new experiences. So it really gave him the insulation to feel safe and to try other things. So we
Yeah.
can keep it simple and really help our kids to build their own resilience. But the first thing we have to do is just get moving. So that can be just simple movement. Okay.
And that might be a great way to spend at least once a week some non-screen time is like some co-planning with your child. Like if you tell your child, you have X amount of screen time and we need some X amount of non-screen time, what do you want to do at that time? So, hey, if you're gonna and you get to set the parameters that work for your family. So you can tell your child, hey, every day we're gonna spend an hour outside. What do you want to do outside these days? Do we just want to read a book outside? Do we want to go for a walk? Do we want to draw on the sidewalk? They can help pick those activities. And so that helps kind of like the free time feel less free and unorganized.
Mm-hmm.
But they're things that they want to do. And so that it'll help the schedule move quicker.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
then
good.
and let it be a guide, right? And like it's not set in
Yes.
stone. If you
Yeah.
need to change it, you can check in with your child, especially if your child's on the spectrum. Check in with them and say, hey, if you feel like they've had an overstimulating day and you say, hey, we have scheduled to go for a walk later and there's going to be a lot of people. Do you want to do something different? Do you want to, do we still want to have that walk today?
Mhm.
It doesn't have to, it's not written in stone.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Exactly.
we could talk about this for hours.
I think so. I think so.
I'm pretty sure we could. Thank you for hopping on. Thank you for presenting. Thank you for being the final presenter of this school year. I really appreciate you as a person and as a professional. And thank you for everything, all the resources you've been able to give our families since the beginning of this pandemic and before. Really appreciate it so much.
And I so appreciate being part of all of this. This was really delightful. And it's an honor to work with this team. And I hope that this has been helpful for you, for the parents. I'm going to go back a couple of slides. I'm going to change this last slide. I just want you to have, if you need me, you can contact me at 4kidsot@aol.com. If you're a parent with a question, feel free to reach out, or if you hit a stumbling block, just reach out to me and I'd be happy to just share a few moments with you and get you on the right track. Okay?
Thanks, Anne, so much. And thank you everyone who joined. Look out for what's coming up from Beyond Access in the next school year. Have a great night and a great summer.
Thank you so much, everybody.